So everyone, and welcome to the 8th episode of Magia Record Anime, the differences and spoiler review. Once again, there will be spoilers for the Japanese and North American version of Magia Record, but that's what you're here for, isn't it? So let's go in with what the game did in this part of the story. We start out in this new chapter with a flashback to the prologue with Homura, because Maru Homu are out in a restaurant. And that's basically the game already telling you we're going to meet Madoka and Homura in this chapter, and they actually get to do a bunch of stuff. Yeah, if you're an anime only and you watch this because you just don't care for game story spoilers anyway, you're probably scratching your head right now. Wait a second, Madoka and Homura had prominent roles in this chapter? Yeah, they got written out of the chapter. More on that later. First off, we see then Iroha having moved into Mikazuki Villa and being like, oh, now isn't it nice that we're having such a nice and friendly environment here now? And we get once again another callback to Iroha searching for Ui, because she's still sad that she can't find her sister, similar to what happened in the anime. And at this point, Iroha and Yachio, they go shopping, they make some dinner, they banter around a bit. Iroha talks about being a loner, and we just get to see some family-friendly life. And this all gets interrupted though, because we have this hospital flashback once again. And in this hospital flashback, we see Toka explaining the odds of them becoming friends, which is completely terrible, because this is the thing about Toka. She thinks she's really smart, but actually what she's saying is complete crap. She just thinks that because the stuff that she's talking about are topics that only intelligent people should talk about, and therefore, because she's talking about those topics, she must be intelligent, right? That's not how it works. You also can't just say words that sound big and then be like, oh, I'm using big words, I'm smart, right? No, Toka, that's not how it works. She explains how you can say, okay, there's this many people on the planet, and you have maybe like 3 best friends in your life or something like that. I don't remember the exact words that she says, and because of that, mathematics says that the chance of you meeting those people as your best friend is this low. But the thing is, that's completely ignoring all sorts of other factors. There's like just as many billions amounts of factors that factor into this equation. For example, you could say, well, but if you are born in a specific area, which of course also has its own chance with it, then you only meet people in those area, at least when you're young, and when you're young you tend to associate more with people who are more receptive to the kind of person who you are, and that are also maybe in your class or something. There's so many factors that go into who could be your friends, who wouldn't be your friends, that you can't just say, well, there's this many billions of people in the world, so if I meet you 3, that's 3 out of 7 billion. That's pretty small chance, right? That's not how it works, you idiot. Toka, dude. Toka and Nemo, they fight some more, and we end the flashback with Team Mikazuki then talking about some mobile game they're playing. This is some recurring joke that happens sometimes. So in this mobile game, you have to build a city. In Felicia's city, it's just farms with cows everywhere. In Yachio City, it's just police stations everywhere. In Tsuruno City, there's just Chinese restaurants everywhere, because Tsuruno wants to open 100 banbansais. And Iroha cities, we don't know what's in there because they got trampled by Felicia's cows. Afterwards, they then talk about wanting to go after bigger rumors, because the rumors they're going after, they aren't big enough. So they look around for some more rumors, as you would do, and Yachio mentions there was this one rumor, the radio wave rumor, that she had been looking into, but she couldn't really find any leads on it, so she just sort of gave up and moved to some other rumor, which is fair. And they want to kind of keep looking around for more info or whatever, sort of just throw hands up, walk around city and be like, well, maybe we can find some info somewhere, anywhere, who knows. So Iroha instead also says she wants to keep looking for Nemu, because she still hasn't actually quite given up on that yet. And at this point, while she's out looking for Nemu, then suddenly she gets a call from Tsuruno, who's like, hey, radio tower, now. So she goes to the radio tower, and as it happens, while they are next to the radio tower, they hear this voice of a girl that's laughing, but they hear it like it's coming from the air, like somewhere invisibly around them. And Yachio, who is also there, she mentions that when she was looking into this rumor before, she also heard this voice, but it was crying and begging for help. So the rumor somehow changed. At this point, they then decide that they need to keep looking into the rumor a bit more. There's also some NPCs there, some random faceless people, and they mentioned that the voice that they heard, they sounded like a girl from school that they knew. At that point, also, there's this small little scene where Iroha asks Felicia to add her number to her phone, because Iroha is terrible with phones, and they need to keep us reminding that. We then cut back at home at Mikazuki Villa, where Iroha and Yachio, they dry Felicia's hair after shower, I guess, and then... Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through it. So first off, Felicia mentions a weird website that she couldn't enter while she was out around on the internet, and afterwards she falls asleep. And Yachio just sort of pokes her while she's sleeping, and then Iroha pokes her as well. Why are you doing this? So then Yachio gets her finger bitten, and they just sort of move on. Why is this even a scene? I like this scene. Don't get me wrong, I like this scene, but why is it a scene? Iroha then gets an unknown text of someone asking her for help, and Yachio just says to ignore it, because why not? Then, in the next part of the story, we then move on, where Iroha is at school again, and she's talking with Kamore, who is together as always, because in the game, nothing like the episode 5 post-credit scene ever happened. Kaede never doppeled anywhere in the entire story. Nothing like that ever happened. So Kamore is just fine. They're just the same as always. Nothing's different about them. So she talks to them about the radio wave rumor, but they can't really help that well. Momoko at least tries, because Momoko is at least trying to be friendly and helpful. So Momoko has found out that the source of this rumor is some sort of website from somewhere, but she doesn't know what it is or how to get to it, because the random NPCs that she's talked to, they don't want to tell her the URL because you're supposed to find it yourself. Kind of contrived reason for them not to just instantly solve the entire thing right there. So instead, Iroha wants Momoko to help her, but Momoko doesn't want to help because she would have to be helping Yachio, and she doesn't want to deal with Yachio right now because she needs some space. Then Iroha then goes over to Yachio and shares all this with her, and then they notice some NPC. I keep saying NPCs, like these faceless people, you know what I mean. And she has a witch's kiss, and they follow her up this radio tower. So they're also right next to the radio tower. They walk up the radio tower, and there's some other NPCs that also have a witch's kiss, and they try to follow that girl, and somehow they're really, really slow and really terrible at following a random person who is maybe walking slow like a zombie. I don't know why they can't follow that. So they get separated from that person, and that person is about to jump. How can they save this person who's about to jump from the top of the radio tower? Madoka appears, and she just saves them. And then all three of them, they fight a witch together, who for some reason is Rebecca. I know we already fought Rebecca in the story. Don't question it. In the game, they just sometimes repeat witches because they didn't want to make new witches all the time. I mean, there is another witch in this chapter, a new witch in this chapter at some point. I think it's Stacy. But they just reused Rebecca because whatever, dude. So while they're fighting, Madoka also talks about how she's looking for a friend, and because she has been with this best friend of her, maybe even stronger than a best friend, maybe even like a girlfriend that she's been with, but she's got separated from her. And also her senpai has been kind of missing lately. Don't know what's going on there. So they fight the witch together, they beat it, yay! And at this point then Madoka decides to team up with them for a little bit, and maybe they can find more info on her senpai and on her missing girlfriend, who knows. You then also see the NPC that they rescued, and talks about this, about the invisible radio wave girl, and says that the voice that came from there was the voice of this girl from her school. That was a missing loner girl, apparently. And that's quite a bit of an info, and Iroha then gets another message. And this time, this message mentions well, whatever this message is, whoever the sender is, requires the help of a Megoka. So that's how we end this part of the story, but we move into another part of the story where then we move to Felicia, who suddenly is the focus of the next few scenes, because we have Felicia sneaking out of school and she wants to get home without being caught. Not go home, she wants to just go around town and do whatever, eat candy or whatever, but she gets caught on the way out by Tsuruno, and the two of them then decide, hey, let's go after Tsukuyo, let's bully the Nees, because we haven't bullied the Nees in this chapter yet, and we need to get to it, because from the last chapter on, every single chapter we're going to bully the Nees a bit. So they decide we need to meet our bullying Nee quota. So they head over to the school where they know that Tsukuyo is from, because they saw her in her school outfit, which they didn't see in the anime. So they have this info only in the game, and Tsuruno devises this amazing plan where she uses fake phone calls to get Tsukuyo to come to the front of the school, and there they ambush her and drag her over to a restaurant and order her drinks, which is actually quite a nice little friendly scene. It doesn't even seem like they're enemies, they're just being friendly kids together. So while they're at this restaurant, they go, okay, we're going to interrogate Tsukuyo about rumors, about this radio wave thing that's going on, and Tsukuyo doesn't want to give any info, so she runs away. Felicia then chases while Tsuruno stays behind to pay the bills, because you should always pay your bills, guys. Also important for the next scene, guys out there, always pay your bills. Don't dine and dash, because if you dine and dash, Homura will randomly appear. Yes, Homura randomly appears, pulls a gun, a real gun, and starts shooting at Tsukuyo. Yes, this really happens, I'm not making this up. So Tsukuyo gets shot at by Homura and decides to back down, while Homura tries to not be an idiot. But if you haven't watched other videos before, Homura in Magia Record game is a complete bumbling fool, complete idiot, because if she wasn't, the main characters would be too powerful. They're nerfing her so they can't use Homura as an easy way out for conflicts later down the line, which makes sense. It still sucks that Homura is so much of an idiot, but yeah. So at this point, Tsuruno then catches up with them, and they ask Tsukuyo some more questions about the rumor. Yachio calls Tsuruno at this exact same time and gives her some new info about the rumor. And then Tsuruno asks Tsukuyo about that new info, and Tsukuyo backs down while name-dropping Sana. Okay, now we know who we're talking about. So then, after we've resolved all of that, everyone's happy again, Homura then talks about her missing girlfriend, and she also talks about her missing senpai, who has been maybe gotten quite a bit into something that's a bit over her head. So now with the help of Team Mikazuki, they're trying to connect Madoka and Homura again, and they are successful. They meet up again, Madohomo is combined once again, Yuri meters off the charts, and at this point we're almost done with this part of this chapter. So that one last time they mentioned Mami and the possibility of Iroha being a witch, but they're like, yeah, maybe Mami was wrong. Maybe Iroha isn't a witch. Sorry about that. And Iroha then gets some more strange messages, some strange texts. And Yachio then sees those texts and she tells Iroha to reply. That's very important. But first they gotta get some grub. They just go to a restaurant and they eat something. And then Iroha finally gives a reply back on her phone. I don't know how she managed to type something into her phone because she's so bad at mobile phones, right? And then she immediately gets a reply back, and the reply says that Iroha can ask her any question she wants. And I'm gonna end the retelling of the game story right here, because this is basically where we are right now in the anime story, where they finally decided to write back. We are maybe about a little bit less than halfway through the chapter, which is very different from what it was with the other chapters, because in the other chapters, after the first anime episode that dealt with that chapter, we were maybe somewhere between like 60 to 70% through the chapter. This time we're maybe like 40% through the chapter. Mostly because what happens after here is really long drawn out. Like there's a lot of drawn out stuff after this, which could be told in one episode, but probably not. We'll see. So, moving on to what the anime did. So, rubbing my hands because there's some juicy bits in here and a whole bunch of not juicy stuff, but let's get on. We see Iroha, of course, asleep again with her candy bunny that she still hasn't given up, even though she must have realized by now that it looks really much like a witch that tried to kill her before. And then her phone turns on with FM Kamihama, holy radio station. And of course, FM Kamihama is the radio station that the Magia Record characters used, that the Madoka Senpai used. If you know Magia Record, the gag manga by Papa, they somehow made part of this canon now. Of course, the radio host isn't Madoka Senpai. It's actually like a real person, a real fictional person. So they didn't go all the way. They didn't really make Magia Report completely canon, but they still gave a nod to it at least. So we then see the OP happening, and I'm going to talk about a bit about the changes in the OP. I know there's been like 1 or 2 changes before. Like I said, with at the end, we saw Tsuruno appear right before the end, for example. But here there's some bit more changes. First off, when Yachio picks up Iroha from the ground, she now smiles. Interesting. And at the end, when the team lines up, for one, Felicia is now added, who is bumping around, and more importantly, they now stand in front of Mikasuki Villa. Nice. So nice little changes, that makes sense. So then after the OP, we then see that we hear rather, because we don't really see a whole lot, the first letter that was written into this radio host is from Ayape, who is from Rika. I know some people say, oh, could be pretty Ayaka, right? No. Ayape is a kind of nickname that Emiri would give to people. Emiri, who is very good friends with Rika. I mean, her usual name for Rika is Rikape. So I assume Rika wanted some help from this radio host, but didn't want to write in with her real name. So she asked Emiri about it. Emiri was probably just like, yeah, just use Ayape or whatever. People won't notice it's you, right? Just in case Ren listens, you know. So, and Rika talks about being in love with a friend of her, who is also a girl. And I know some people would be like, oh yes, this is probably a callback to Rika's Mahou Shoujo story, right? Where she is in love with this friend of hers, and then she uses her wish to be together with her, and then afterwards she realizes it's fake love, and then she breaks up and goes on her way again. But the thing is, the Mahou Shoujo story for Rika happens before the main story. Chronologically, that is all in the past already. During the time main story plays, she's already really good friends with Ren. Meaning, in the anime, Rika Ren is canon. Moving on, the phone end suddenly becomes this static and we hear some laughter. And as we hear this laughter at the end of this, we then see a screen that appears black, but we actually see this faded outline of Sana. Ooh. Importantly enough, also, while the phone is lying down and we see some stuff surrounding the phone, there's some stuff written down and there's some other rumors. I think one is about the Blossom Girl, I think it is, which is a callback to Konomi's story. I think there's also some rumor of the Kazumi story. There's a bunch of game story related stuff in there, but I didn't look up all of it because it's just game story stuff, okay? It's not really that important. But it's really cool that they did put these references here, because I really love when they put in small details like that. So then Iroha wakes up and we see her morning routine where she once again laments her missing sister. Oh no, my sister is gone. Oh, I feel so hollow inside. And then Iroha transfers school, which we didn't quite see this scene exactly or something like this in the game. We didn't really need to. We then see a bunch of shots of characters at school, basically reminding us who is here. And this also reminds us that Team Kamore is having trouble. Momoko is at school, Reina is at school, but Kaede is sitting at home. And she looks very, very sad. We also see one empty school chair in the Mizuna school, which of course is a reference to Sana. Surprised she didn't sit in the back, because you would expect the invisible person who no one cares about to sit in the back. But I guess they booked that trope. Maybe it's important that they made it look like there's really a hole in the formation, because if it was all the way in the back, you could say like, okay, maybe there was just not enough people to fill all the seats. But if it's in the middle, you know that the person should be sitting there. Okay, makes sense. So we then see Iroha again talking to some people, and she tells us, or actually does tell us, gives some narration that her messages to Kaede haven't gotten any replies. So she also mentions once again, or we see rather, she's also got messages from an unknown sender. We don't know anything what's going on there. It's Aichan. So Iroha then walks up to the breakup staircase and goes up it to meet Rena on the rooftop. And Rena says that also Kaine hasn't really answered her either. She apparently still comes to school, but then leaves immediately right afterwards. I'm quite surprised that Momoko didn't try to force anything there. Because you would think that if Momoko realized that something terrible must have happened with Kaede, that Momoko would try really hard to get some infos out of her. But apparently they just let her be. Okay. So Rena gives some more infos, but first she asks if Iroha has found out anything about her sister, but nope. She has not found no infos about her sister, but she wants to at least keep investigating rumors just in case she might find something somewhere. Serena then tells her the rumor of the invisible girl. This is an anime-only rumor that doesn't appear anywhere in the game, but it makes sense to put it in here to connect it to the rest of the story. So the rumor talks about the girl that nobody noticed, that became transparent over time, and the less people noticed her, and at some point she became completely invisible. Two cool things. First off, the rumor preview, even though they're in a completely different school, the rumor preview specifically shows the characters in Mizuna school uniforms, because Sana is Mizuna school student, or was. And two, the clock is at 3:07. 3:07. 3 is Sun, 7 is Nana, Sun, Nana, Sana. Oh! I love when they do stuff like this. So Iroha then, while she's being told this rumor, then she kind of connects this to herself as well. She like this story also, or this rumor strikes a chord with her as well. And Rena mentions one last thing: to avoid endless solitude, whatever that is. So then we see that Iroha goes over and visits Banmansai, where Felicia is part-timing. We didn't get this last episode because we didn't have time for it, which is fine because last episode was already having quite a lot of stuff in it. But now that we have an episode with a bit more time, we go over, yeah, Felicia is now part-timing at Banmansai and she's got something going on there. And Tsuruno appears and wants to make even more food for Iroha because she just wants to make more food. If you can't have food that's better than 50 points, at least make a lot of it, right? That's how it works? Is that how it works? I'm sure that's how it works. So while they're talking a bit more about rumors, Tsuruno then tells the rumor of the radio wave girl. And the rumor says that below the radio tower in Kamehama, if you listen to your phone, you hear a girl's voice. And the voice is crying for help. Okay, so next scene, we see Iroha coming home where Yachio has a phone call with Kanagi. Yes, of course, this is Kanagi that she's talking to. We have heard her voice. Sadly, she doesn't really appear in anything but voice, but it's a later chapter. We're going to get to her eventually. So she talks to Kanagi about how the Wings of Magius has been recruiting people all over the city, which is something that wasn't quite mentioned in the game at this point, nor was Kanagi ever brought in. So it makes sense to give some more to take this time to give more connections between all these different characters, between things that are happening, because this is something that's also happening in the game, that the Wings of Magus is recruiting people from all over the city, including the east, of course. So it makes sense that Yachio would already be trying to find out more information by connecting characters, connecting events. And I like that. They're putting more effort into making sure there's a more logical through line between everything that happens and everything is better connected with each other, instead of just having coincidences connect everything together like in the game. Because in the game, if you need to connect two things, just have a coincidence, randomly bring it together. That's basically what the game does. Here in the anime, stuff actually makes sense. Nice. So Iroha and Yachio, they eat dinner like girlfriends do, and Iroha talks about some new rumors, but before she can talk about them in detail, she gets interrupted by his phone messages once again, and Yachio says that, no, those messages are spam, you should use maybe something like AdBlock Plus, you can get that for your phone, and that you definitely should not answer to any spam mail, which you really shouldn't. By the way, guys, if you're out there, if you ever get a spam mail, don't open the mail and don't answer to it either. Don't do that. It's important part about security. Yeah, don't even open mail that you think is spam, unless you have something like Thunderbird, which shows you the message without remote content. Yeah, whatever. Moving on. not time for that, because we get another flashback to a hospital scene where Toka talks once again about how unlikely their friendship is. And yeah, this is the mathematics behind this. We have Drake's formula behind that, which makes no sense unless she's trying to somehow bring into this the chance that she's born as a member of the human species on this planet and not as part of some other advanced civilization out there in the universe. But oh my god, Toka just I'm not gonna get worked up over Toka today. I already did. So Nemo fights her, of course, because Nemo knows that she's bullshit. And Uri does her amazing 0 degrees. I want to say 360 double headshots. You just not a 360. You just does a 0 double headshot, no scope, and then we get once again another holy radio station, FM Kamihama, what a name, about a person called Kinokonoki, which is just Kinoko and then as a palindrome, like it's the same forwards and backwards. Doesn't work the same in English, but in Japanese, if you write in Japanese, it's a palindrome. So this person, is Kanoko, writes in about wanting to become a fashion designer. I'm surprised you didn't write in about wanting to ride to space on a spaceship made of mushrooms. Not even a spaceship made of mushrooms, just on a mushroom. She wants to ride into space, because she's an alien. Sad we didn't get more Kanoko, but hey, at least she got some part in the anime. So next up, we see once again at school, where Iroha has to get called by a teacher to bail out Felicia, because Felicia has been fighting people. In fact, she's been fighting other magical girls. We know that magical, or we can at least assume they have to be magical girls because they know about the connection between Yachio and Iroha, and more importantly, they specifically draw attention to Yachio being a bit weird and Iroha being an outsider. Of course, you can say Iroha is an outsider because she's transferring, but as far as they know, Yachio is a very accomplished top model. Surprised they didn't mention that. If they were regular people, wouldn't they mention something about Yachio being a top model who randomly has this outsider sleep in her house? I assume they would mention that, but since they didn't, I assume they were all magical girls. It's a pretty good thing to do. And also, if Felicia fought someone, they must be magical girls to survive that, even if she's just punching. So much for that. So Felicia has been defending Iroha and Yachio, so Felicia has been doing something that we in our society call character development. Good job there, Felicia, you're doing well. And since they're near the radio tower, they decide to head over the radio tower and test the rumor. So Iroha does the phone thingy and she can hear the laughing. So important detail, I mean, you've already noticed it by now, everyone, that in the game, the voice from the girl just sort of happens from the air. They're just like, oh my, it's like the air is speaking to us. That's like so weird. Why? I mean, it's a rumor all about technology. Just put it on the phone, which is what they did for the anime. Just put it on the phone. Why not? So they put it on the phone, which makes way more sense, and they hear the voice is laughing. I can already tell you guys, because it's a spoiler review, so why not? The reason why the voice was crying at first and then laughing is because at first, of course, when Sana was abducted by Ai-chan, Sana was scared and wanted back, not home, but just out. But over time, of course, she warmed up to Ai-chan and realized her predicament and kind of got used to it. And then she actually didn't just get used to it, she actually kind of enjoyed it and started liking Ai-chan. Totally not in a romantic way. She just started liking Ai-chan, and that's when she started laughing instead, and she's happy now. But now the text messages that are coming in, which are mostly the same as in the game, with only one difference. In the game, we could see from the very first text message that was being sent that Ai-chan was talking about magical girls, to at least let the viewer know that this is something special and not really just spam, because the game kind of tries to bait you into thinking it's really just spam. Of course, it's not really just spam, because you know this fictional stories are written in particular ways, and they wouldn't really just have actual spam mail happening in a story for no reason. Of course, there has a significance, but at least they try to play it off as if it was spam mail. While in the anime, they make it very clear from the start that you're talking about magical girls, and therefore it has to be special. So, because of this, the framing is a little bit different, but still mostly the same. There's not that many differences with this. But yeah, of course, the message is coming from Aichan, because after Sana sort of got used to it and friendly to Aichan, Aichan realized that maybe keeping someone trapped in here is a terrible thing, especially when that person is as depressing to listen to as Sana, because Sana has one of the most depressing backstories in all of Magia Record. So Aichan sort of felt along with Sana and decided to let her go free. But in order to let her go free, she needs to be deleted by Magical Girl, which is why she's sending out these messages. I'm not quite sure why only Iroha is getting these messages. I think there was something about this in the game. We'll see later. First off, though, moving on, we then see Iroha back at school the next day, I assume, where she picks up on rumors that she apparently would be a delinquent, and which of course not true. She's not a delinquent, she just backflips through empty classrooms instead of cleaning. And we also then see this visual representation of her becoming a loner. People don't want to sit next to her. She's alone in the break as well. But hey, she can walk up to her magical girlfriend, to Reina, and there they share some more information. And Reina has found something out about Endless Solitude on 42chan, and on there she goes through the logs. So people have made this joke like, why doesn't she just use the Wayback Machine or some archive or whatever? She said she went through the logs, so I assume that's what they meant. So Reina is not, I want to say stupid, because it actually does take quite a bit of knowledge to know that such a thing even exists. But yeah, she did find the deleted message, but the website link in that message gives a 404 solution to the problem not found. Instead, Iroha gets more spam mail, and she shows this spam mail over to Reina, who then realizes, wait a second, Magical Girls, this is special. Iroha then has gears grinding in her head, and a light bulb plops up on her head, and she realizes, oh, this must all be connected. So she connects everything into her head and realizes that she needs to head over to the radio tower and keep investigating the rumor. While she heads over, she also makes a call to Yachio that she's going over there just in case something happens, because something happens. And when she's over there, she notices suddenly these Magus tags all over the place, and she notices Tsukuyo. So first off, she notices Tsukuyo, and then she notices that, wait a second, Tsukuyo's breasts are suddenly twice as large from one shot to the next. That's an animation error. You can also tell that two different people animated either scene, because the animation style is ever so slightly different. Yeah, if you have multiple animators doing stuff like that between scenes, on the same scene rather, that shouldn't happen. Moving on. Iroha follows Tsukuyo up the radio tower all the way up to the roof. Nothing special there, other than she suddenly ends up in a labyrinth of the rooftop witch Stacy, which should be here because she's the rooftop witch. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Also, one thing to note, although in this place, is there's a paint splotch on Stacy. We know that from before, the paint splotch means this witch has been tempered by, I say tempered, Charles to Final Fantasy 14, by Alina's doppel, Old Dorothy, which I've already talked about in the episode before this. And also, even more important, there is a strawberry milk carton in the background, and specifically strawberry milk. It says on it in Witch Runes, which means this is a reference to Karen. Are we gonna get Karen soon? I wanna see Karen. I wanna see Karen because she's so cute. Everyone's viewers' eyes are going to explode. That's kind of brutal. Whatever. So this is the important parts to note, and she kind of talks to Tsukuyo during all of this, and Tsukuyo doesn't know anything about the mail, because once again the mail is not part of the rumor. The mail is actually from the rumor trying to defeat itself, which they don't know about. But she does know that someone is locked up, and that person is Sana, which she just lets slip. Idiot Tsukuyo, but we need to know the name somehow. And at this point then Iroha, she keeps dodging Stacy's attack, but she's not really trying to fight it and beat it. Like I said, I don't know why she doesn't try to fire back at it, but at least she's getting good at dodging until she isn't. Tsukuyo doesn't want to give her any more answers though, so at this point she has to get bailed out by Mummy, but then she leaves again immediately. So I'm going to talk a little bit more later in just in a few minutes, about what is going on with Mummy and the rest of the team. But first, the rest of Team Mikazuki arrive, and they try to fight her. I think they, just Yachio, she just solos the witch instantly with like absolute rain, some blast crits or whatever thrown in there. It's like a blast magia and then Excel combo and just kills. Then in celebration, they all go over to a restaurant where they talk about what has happened, about all these rumors, the information. They also put it all together while Felicia does some slurp, 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 slurp. And Yachio then tells Iroha to respond to one of those messages just to see what happens. Maybe the message is, maybe whoever's sending these messages is just gonna go, it's just a prank, bro. But no, as soon as she sends the message, she immediately gets responses, which is supposed to clue viewers in that whoever is writing the messages back is not a human, because no human could answer in split seconds like this. So Ai-chan then tells her to come to endless solitude. And this is where the episode ends. Nice. And Kawasmina as well. So let's talk a bit about what has happened in this episode on a bigger level and what it actually means with the differences to the game. Of course, the biggest differences, before we get to that, first off, once again, with pretty much every single episode, the entire plot has been streamlined, simplified. There's actually a logical through line through everything now, and the rumors are way more clearly defined and have better rules that tie into the story and tie into the characters. So overall, way better story writing. Everything is way nicer and more logical. So the pacing, and you talk about the pacing because I talked a little bit about how the pacing has been rather fast in these last few episodes, because they keep in the first episode of like an episode pair. Like I said, there's always setup resolution. With the setup episodes, they usually rushed rather quickly to the point where we would get to the conflict, and then in the conflict episode they would have thrown a whole bunch of stuff to resolve the conflict in a meaningful way. But this time it really seems like they have slowed down quite a bit, because as I mentioned earlier, we're only maybe like 40 or maybe somehow 40 to 50% through the story of this chapter, so they have slowed down a bit and are giving more time to actually let everything unfold, which they kind of have to. So if we say that, well, first off, we know that we have 13 episodes in this season, right? And we know that they're not going to be able to finish the 10 chapters. So the idea becomes, do you just make sure these 13 episodes end on a good note, even if they have to rush to get to that good note? Maybe. Or do you say, well, even though we've only had 13 episodes confirmed right now, we as the creators are still going to act as if we are going to get 26 episodes, so we are going to spread out the early episodes already, hoping we're going to get that green light for the second season as well. But it seems to me almost like the former is the reality, that really they just decided to make sure that it works as a 13 episode anime in case they don't get greenlighted for a second season, which means they probably wanted to rush to the end of chapter 6, maybe even the end of chapter 7 as well as they could. Probably end of chapter 7 as well as they could, because end of chapter 7 is kind of a place where you can leave off, and it seems like, well, the story isn't complete, but there's not really anything that immediately needs addressing at the end of chapter 7 anymore. Like there's no giant cliffhangers, only really small ones. But if they went with a long con to say, okay, even though we've only got 13 episodes greenlighted, let's act as if we're gonna get 26, they would probably go to end of chapter 6, I would assume, at the end of the 13 episodes, because the end of chapter 6 is like this big breakdown where everything goes to shit, and in order to make sure that the end of chapter 6 lines up with the 13th episode, they have to slow down a bit. So far with this current pace, we're on pace for end of chapter 7 on episode 13, but if they slow down enough, they might be able to slow down hard enough that end of chapter 6 is where episode 13 lands. I don't know about that, but since the pacing slowed down in this episode, it's possible that they do that. we're going to have to keep a look. But I'm hopeful that they end on chapter 6 ending and don't try to rush to chapter 7 ending, because if they rush that hard, oh, I'm not gonna like that if they rush that hard. So now about the important restructuring bits that actually happen in this episode. I've talked about this so long now that I haven't actually gotten to the important parts. Yes. The Puella Magi Holy Quintet has been almost completely, 99%, been written out of this chapter. So we had this entire bit, not just one bit, we had this entire through line with Madoka and Homura trying to find each other and running into the other characters of Magia Record. But none of this is in the anime. Why is it not in the anime? Because it's better this way. Madoka and Homura do fucking nothing in the entire game. Why are they even in the game? They don't do anything. They're just there, fight one fight, then meet each other and go, hey guys, we're just going to be in the background now and cheering you on while you fight. Yay! What is the fucking point of the Puella Magi Holy Quintet in this story? Other than, oh look, it's the Puella Magi Holy Quintet, I know these characters, whoa! It's marketing. Because people want to see these characters, even if it doesn't really make any sense that they're even there. I mean, here's the thing. You can make it so it makes sense that some of these characters are here. For example, it makes sense that Kyoko and Mami would come to the city searching for grief seeds because the witches have been drawn away. Mami especially because she's the ally of justice, and if someone is monopolizing witches, she can't have that. She has to be like, no, equality for everyone. You can't monopolize witches and grief seeds. So it makes sense that Mami is here. Makes sense that Kyoko is just trying to get grief seeds, just trying to make do. It makes sense that Homura is here because she had this entire prologue in the game as well. Homura wants to find a way to make it so you don't have to witch out anymore, because that would immediately solve a problem that she has with Madoka dying all the time. If Madoka wouldn't turn into a witch anymore, she would have basically saved Madoka, and since that's her whole deal, it makes sense for her to be there, and it also makes sense if she were to join the Magius. If you really were interested in making sure that everything around the Puella Magi Holy Quintet made absolute sense with the story, Homura has to become a wing of Magius, maybe even a Magius, because she's so deeply invested into saving Madoka that being presented with such a great way of immediately saving Madoka, of course she would do that. Homura wouldn't go, oh, but if a handful of people die, I don't know about that. Homura would immediately cut her own neck off if that would save Madoka. Like, Homura doesn't give a shit. So yeah, Homura would immediately do that and join the Wings of Magius. I don't see a reason why Sayaka would be over there, other than she just follows the others, I guess. I don't see why Madoka would be over there, other than I guess she might be looking for Homura if Homura was suddenly missing. That's stretching it a bit, but I can still see it kind of being real. But having them just randomly thrown in because Mami has been brainwashed in the game to be Holy Mami. So yeah, if you're anime only, it seems like this story arc has been either removed or completely changed. Because at this point in the game, Mami is missing. Because she's been brainwashed by the Magius to become Holy Mami. And in one chapter's time, she basically tries to kill the main characters. And then she tries that again, and then again. And then she's suddenly saved, and everything's fine again. But none of that actually has a big involvement of the Puella Magi Holy Quintet. Like, Sayaka appears once in the story. She bails out the main characters and then doesn't do anything. Madoka and Homura, after this point in the story, they just stand in the background sometimes and go, we're fighting too and we're cheering you on. They don't really do anything. Kyoko, she actually does something at some point where she invades the Wings of Magius for a little bit and then bails out the rest of the Puella Magi Holy Quintet. But that has nothing to do with Magia Record in any way. Because she doesn't actually do anything in the Wings of Magius. She just joins the Wings of Magius, and then one scene later, she's already left the Wings of Magius to save her friends. What is going on with the Puella Magi Holy Quintet in the game? It's almost like they're just thrown in because people want to see them in the story, and not because it actually makes sense from a writing perspective. So I'm actually really hopeful that they keep going with making sure that it actually makes sense why these characters are in Kamihama and why they are here in this story in the anime. Because I'm really hopeful that this is actually what is going to happen, that they really try to focus on actually making sense and logical sense, because Madoka and Homura weren't in this episode. Because, like I said, it made no fucking sense for them to actually do random shit in this episode, so it's a good thing they're not here. Yes, it's good that Homura... I mean, people say that I'm like a big Homura stan, but dude, it's really fucking good if Homura never shows up as a good character in this story, because she shouldn't be. And Sayaka shouldn't be here, Madoka probably shouldn't be here. Kyoko, at least they made it sense why Kyoko is here, and same with Mami. The thing about Mami quickly appearing and then disappearing and saving Iroha, I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Some people have argued that maybe Mami is already brainwashed. She's not Holy Mami, she's still just Mami, but she's also still brainwashed, and what happened is that Mami was somehow just there, and because she's brainwashed, she doesn't fight the witch, because you can say, oh no, that can't be the regular Mami, because regular Mami would kill the witch, right? But since she didn't kill the witch, and since we know the brainwash plot exists in the game, maybe she is brainwashed. But then the question is, if she's brainwashed, why does she save Iroha? Maybe because she's fighting against the brainwashing. We actually got the scenes for this plot reasoning in Holy Mami's Maho Shoujo story, where it basically shows us that inside Holy Mami there is this discord between regular Mami and the Holy Mami part of her that is trying to figure out what is the right thing to do. So it seems like she's conflicted. So you can say, okay, this is the brainwashed Mami, she's conflicted. She doesn't fight the witch because she's been instructed not to, but at the same time she can't stand by and watch someone get killed. So she saves Iroha, but then sort of runs away. I don't know. It's also possible that Mami is not brainwashed, and she's just observing and it's what's going on. So she's just basically crossing her arms and being like, I wonder what's going to happen next. Kind of like us, the viewers. But also, once again, she couldn't just stand by while someone gets killed, so she saves Iroha, but then goes back to observing. That's also possible, that she's just gathering info and doesn't want to interfere with anyone anymore, especially because she might still believe that Iroha might be hiding something, or that Yachio might be hiding something, or that something fucky is going on, we don't know. So a lot of weird things that you can theorize about, we don't really know. But to bring it all to a point, I just hope that Inokuri is really trying hard to make sure that Puella Holy Quintet appearances in the anime are rectified and they actually make logical sense. Because they didn't do that in the anime, in the game. Like the one character who shouldn't even, not the one character, but like I said, in the game, the character who makes the most sense to be in Kamehama and to be involved with the story is Homura, and it would have made so much sense if she was a Wings of Magus, but instead, no one from the Puella Magi Holy Quintet does anything in the story that makes an impact on the Magia Record story apart from Mami, and she's just a brainwashed slave, so it doesn't even matter if she's Mami. She could have been fucking Jane Doe. No, Jane Doe is Kodo. She could have been anyone, it doesn't matter. So here's to hoping they use Mami and the rest of the Puella Magi Quintet way better in the anime. That was that. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.